Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture.
Hello App Spy viewers, this is Mark Brown, editor of sister site PocketGamer, and yes, you read that YouTube thumbnail correctly. Seminal first-person shooter BioShock is coming to an iPhone or iPad near you later this year, and it's not some hokey mobile remake or a Match 3 puzzler spin-off or anything like that, but a fully fledged, bona fide port of the console and PC shooter from way back in 2007. What you're seeing on screen now is some direct feed of the game running on an iPad of some description, courtesy of 2K. I have had my hands on the game itself, but the PR folk wouldn't let us capture our own footage, so you'll have to make do with this publisher-supplied B-roll for now. So, a quick, spoiler-free catch-up course for those who haven't played BioShock before. The game takes place in an underwater city called Rapture, which is owned by a bloke named Andrew Ryan. Old Andy has read a bit too much Ayn Rand, and runs the city as an objectivist utopia, which basically means everyone is in it for themselves. Believe it or not, but things go horribly wrong, mostly because of the discovery of a sea slug that baths up something called Adam, which, when injected into your veins, rewrites your genetic code and gifts you nifty superpowers. This leads to black markets, rivalries, and all-out war, which would eventually tear down Rapture from the inside, leaving little left standing but a few key faces, a bunch of Adam addicts called splicers, and loads of hot dogs everywhere for some reason. This is where you come in. Your plane crashes over the ocean, and you find a mysterious lighthouse that takes you down into Rapture. You grab a wrench, dose yourself up with some Adam, and work with a bloke named Atlas, who asks you to find my family. He's very Irish.
Go to Neptune's bounty. Find my family, please.
I apologise for any Irish people I have offended. Right, back to the iOS footage. So, BioShock really is something else. It has an incredibly rich and interesting world with a genuinely intriguing backstory and a twisty narrative that's a joy to follow. And it's a good shooter too, with lots of strategy to employ. You've got guns and powers, and you can use them in unison. You can make traps, you can hack sentry turrets and drones so they work on your side. It really has a lot going for it, and even though I played it to death back in 2007, I really was still totally engaged playing it again on iPad. I mean, that introduction itself with going down in the bathysphere, down into the water, and seeing the world unfurl in front of you is really going to go down as one of the most iconic openers in a video game. I mean, I was enjoying myself in spite of the iPad controls, which are perfectly serviceable but not ideal. They're about as good as you can hope for from virtual controls, and there's some heavy-handed auto-aim which certainly helps during firefights, but you have no opportunity to mess with the controls. You can't tweak the sensitivity or move the buttons or anything like that. They're fine for walking around the city and exploring Rapture, but you'll feel encumbered during fights, especially against the big daddies, these big ogre-like men in retro diving suits who will stick a drill bit in your sternum if you try and get too close to the little girls they're protecting. Having to reach up to the top left of the screen to administer health, for example, is a pain when your thumbs are busy flailing about down the bottom of the screen. The game does support MFI controllers though, so you can play with real buttons if you've got one of those fancy but very expensive pads. I haven't had a chance to try it out myself yet, but we'll test it out fully in the final review. And the game does look pretty good too. I'd say it's closer to the original source material than XCOM Enemy Unknown looked on iPad, with all its lumpy faces. It's not as good as the Xbox 360 version, of course, but it's still impressive. It's very detailed. I think that's important. It really captures the tone and atmosphere of this weird Art Deco dystopian world that Ken Levine and co. dreamt up many moons ago. That's about all we have to say about BioShock, really. I mean, it is, after all, a port of a game that almost everyone has played, and it's a straight port with everything from the original game that you've come to expect, and all that's really been changed is there's the virtual controls, and there's a free art book inside the app, which is nice. So that's BioShock. It's out on iPhone and iPad later this year. 2K says it has no plans right now for an Android version.